Good afternoon. It's Wednesday, the 3rd of September, 2025, just after 1 o'clock. Welcome to UK Column News. I'm your host, Mike Robinson. My co-host today is Brian Gerrish. Welcome to the programme, Brian.
Pleasure, Mike.
And joining us via live link are researcher and activist Sandi and journalist and peace campaigner Vanessa Beeley. And later in the programme, Brian's going to be reporting on the duplicity of Nick Clegg, censorship, politics, big business, these types of topics. Vanessa's going to be covering the Zionist shadow state here in the UK, and Sandi's going to be taking a look at impact investing and how that's changing the way that we're governed. But we're going to start off with going to China, and Xi Jinping was looking at a huge parade and so on, a major military parade held in Tiananmen Square in Beijing, of course, to mark the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II. I have to say, he said some pretty unpleasant things about Japan in the course of the speech that he gave, perhaps unsurprising in a certain sense, but it is 80 years later. The BBC and other media took the opportunity to present this as a major provocation as China was showing off some of its new weaponry, which, well, does the West have any defense against any of this, Brian?
Quite a lot of it. They don't, Mike. The moment it goes into hypersonic missiles, the West's in trouble at the moment.
Yeah, indeed. So the event, as I say, was to mark 80 years since Japan's defeat at the end of World War II. Western leaders didn't attend. Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un were the guests of honor. And as you can see on screen, lots of new hardware, including the J-15, which is China's new carrier-based electronic warfare jet, which you'll see in a second. Submarine-launched intercontinental ballistic missile was there as well, a new one, along with drones of various kinds. Perhaps some of them were autonomous. Now, Xi's message was simple. Today, mankind, he said, is faced with the choice of peace or war, dialogue or confrontation, win-win or zero sum. And he went on to say that the Chinese people firmly stand on the right side of history. I'm sure they probably stand on the left side of history if we consider their politics. But anyway, that's another thing. So, he's sending a message not to mess with China, apparently, by showing off all this hardware. But he's also apparently, at least on the surface, offering the option of dialogue, unlike the West, which is clearly on a non-negotiable path to war, despite the demonstrations from China and Russia of what they have in their arsenals. For example, functioning armies, navies, and air forces. Do we have functioning armies, navies, and air forces?
Not entirely. We certainly haven't got a functioning navy, Mike, because we've talked about that in a really bad situation. And of course, the army is not big enough to fight, and the RAF at the moment is just something on the sideline. So UK in a pitiful state.
Well, as the war drums keep beating, let's bring the BBC back because with no skepticism whatsoever, they were reporting on Monday that a flight with Ursula von der Leyen on board was disrupted due to suspected Russian interference. The BBC reports that this was according to the European Commission, and they just believed them without any particular challenge at all. They quote an unnamed spokesperson who allegedly said the GPS jamming happened while von der Leyen was about to arrive in southern Bulgaria on Sunday. The plane landed safely, and the spokesperson is allegedly said to have said, we have received information from the Bulgarian authorities that they suspect that this was due to blatant interference by Russia. The Financial Times also got in on this again with no skepticism and also citing unnamed officials, and they reported that von der Leyen's plane had to land at the airport with pilots using paper maps, apparently.
Yes, I saw that comment. That was a big shock for the pilots that they actually had to do some work.
Yes. The problem is, though, that Flight Radar 24 disagrees with all this. They tweeted out on Monday that they were seeing media reports of GPS interference affecting the plane carrying von der Leyen. They said that some reports claim the aircraft was in a holding pattern for 1 hour. This is what we can deduce from our data. Flight Radar 24 said the flight was scheduled to take 1 hour and 48 minutes. It took 1 hour and 57 minutes. The aircraft's transponder reported good GPS signal quality from takeoff to landing. So I think we're going to have to say that this report from the BBC and all the other legacy media is nonsense. And the question is, why are they doing this? Well, I suspect that this is all about security guarantees. The demand that even though Ukraine is not going to join NATO anytime soon, that the Starmer regime and the EU want an Article 5 style guarantee for Ukraine, so that should our countries put boots on the ground, that any attack on them would mean war. And this is why there was all the furore over the claimed attack on the British Council building and the EU building in Kiev last week. And of course, our illustrious Secretary of State for War was giving a statement in the House yesterday, I believe, when he reiterated how disgraceful it was that the Russians had attacked the British Council in this way, which of course they didn't, not directly anyway. So this fake GPS story, I think, is a continuation of that.
Yeah, I wonder, Mike, whether what's actually gone on is aircraft coming close to the conflict zone are getting some interference from whatever electronic warfare systems the Russians are using. But I think there's a big difference between picking up interference and actually somebody targeting you with a dedicated electronic warfare system. So my view on this is a manipulated story.
Absolutely. So with all that in mind and the war drums beating as hard as they are, it should come as no surprise then that Le Canard in France is claiming to have seen leaked French government documents which show that French hospitals have been told to prepare for French casualties by March 2026 because of a major war. In fact, not just French casualties, but NATO casualties and so on from other countries. Now, we have to make it clear that Le Canard is considered a satirical magazine, but it also covers serious stuff as well. So you've got to make up your own mind whether this was intended to be satire or whether it's real. It certainly is real as far as the mainstream media is concerned, but I suppose we could, the closest thing in the UK that we can compare this publication to is Private Eye. So the question is, was this satire or was it real? The article says that on the orders of Catherine Vautrin, hospitals must stand ready to receive thousands of soldiers wounded in the event of a generalized armed conflict in Europe. They had received internal documents asking regional health agencies to prepare caregivers for a possible major commitment under the mandate of the General Secretariat for Defence and National Security. Catherine Vautrin has plans to establish medical centres to accommodate patients returning from the combat zones. These centres will have to be located close to bus or railway stations, ports or airports to, quote, enable the rerouting to their home nation of foreign soldiers. And they're suggesting perhaps 100 casualties per day for 2 consecutive months, or 250 patients daily for 3 days at peaks of activities. But it's not clear whether that's per facility or as a whole. As a whole, Brian, for a general conflict, that seems like quite low numbers.
I would have said so. And what are they talking about here, Mike? This is the key thing until there's some actual meat on the bones as to what they think is going to happen. But this isn't war against the Russians. This is some sort of game.
Yeah,
again, it's manipulation.
Manipulation here. Yeah. Yes. Now it should come as no surprise that Ursula von der Leyen, speaking to the FT, claims that Europe has a pretty precise plan for sending troops to Ukraine. There's a clear roadmap, she said, for possible deployments. Security guarantees are paramount and absolutely crucial. So there we have this reiteration of these security guarantees. This is this Article 5 scenario, Article 5 type scenario. She said we have a clear roadmap and we had an agreement in the White House, and this work is going forward very well. So let's just bring her on screen so you can see these words. Security guarantees are paramount. And President Trump reassured us that there will be an American presence as part of the backstop. That's very clear and repeatedly affirmed.
Well, they're desperate to get that commitment, Mike, because without the Americans, there is no substance there. Amongst European troops and NATO.
Yes, she said that various European capitals were working on plans for a multinational troop deployment and the backstop of Americans. So, I don't quite know what to make of it. But Vanessa, I don't know if you've got any thoughts on that. I know you're certainly not necessarily optimistic about what Russia and China are doing, but the language from them, despite the military parade, does seem to be suggesting that they would prefer to be talking than fighting.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I agree. I think, no, my reservations come from how little support they're giving to Palestine currently and the region. But I think as regards negotiations with the US, EU, and UK, I think Russia and China are both perfectly sensible in their approach that negotiations should be first. And negotiations can continue even through military activity, which we've seen from Russia, of course, but not from Ukraine.
Yes, thank you for that. Now, you made a comment before the news program about these types of parades, but we'll keep that for extra. And so if anybody's interested in listening to that discussion, you better, and you're not yet a member, you better join fairly quickly. But anyway, Vanessa, let's move on then to back to the UK. And I mean, we're looking at the role of the Zionist lobby in this country. And we obviously had David Miller on the program last week, but it's not just him that is under attack at the moment.
No, definitely not. And you talk about the Zionist lobby. This is more about Israel and the Zionist movement. So it's a much bigger complex than only a lobbying industrial complex that Israel deploys against the world, basically. And of course, this comes in the context of ongoing unthinkable genocide in Gaza. We've seen some of the most, and I don't even know how we can keep saying this, some of the most hideous massacres in the last 7 days of children, of aid camps, of refugee tents just being burned to the ground with people still in them, etc. So, the horror, the absolute horror that is being perpetrated by the Zionist regime against the Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank is something that we should all keep in mind whenever we discuss any of this. But it's my belief now, watching what is going on in the UK, that it's not only a case of potential state capture, but I think what we're now actually seeing is the expansion of a shadow state, which of course is what the British has always deployed against countries like Syria, for example. We talked many times, Mike, about the creation of a shadow state inside Syria to infiltrate and destroy infrastructure and structure institutions within Syria during the regime change war. But effectively, in my opinion, that is now exactly what Israel is doing within the UK. So I want to take the case, a relatively recent case, although it's been ongoing for 2 years. It's now being ramped up against an NHS doctor. I understand she's a trainee orthopedic surgeon also, Dr. Rahmeh Aladwan, who you can go to her X account to follow all of the details on her case. And this is just one section from her pinned post. If my British government, she's a British citizen, wants to let you, meaning the Zionists, do this to their NHS doctor who has 0 patient complaints or disciplinary actions, and let you dictate who gets to practice medicine in Britain, depriving the British public of my care, then so be it. We will never abandon Gaza. So let's dig down into what is actually happening. This is a video. She originally came under investigation by the Medical Council, the GMC, under the Terrorist Act, of course. That case, after 9 months, was dismissed. There were no charges against her, etc. And this is just her little explanation on that.
The GMC found no basis for any of the allegations under the Terrorism Act and asked me to comment on the anti-Semitism allegations. Case examiners found no realistic evidence that my fitness to practice is impaired and closed the case. No action, no warning, case closed. Rightfully so. This smear piece is a retaliation. What are they saying? Who exactly is saying it? Who is this mystery colleague? And what is their true intention?
So basically, once she was cleared by the GMC and back at work, this happened. So in February 2025, the Daily Mail ran a horrendous smear piece against Rahmeh. The shocking full extent of anti-Semitism at the heart of our health service, from the doctor terrifying colleagues with her views to the neurologist idolizing Hamas. And this is written by junior news reporter Sabrina Miller. People might recognize her from the former Bristol University student who waged a campus war for Israel against David Miller. Of course, David Miller eventually won his case against Bristol University and is now facing an appeal case by the Zionist lobby, basically the Zionist movement. So then Rahmeh basically looked into or discovered those who were attacking her through the Daily Mail article. She again put all this information out on X. So she says here, leaked, confirmed, the doctor who had lied about me in the Daily Mail's defamatory article, Dr. Miriam Green, is the same colleague who complained to Whittington Hospital, our workplace, about my online Palestine activism and had me fired. Now, in one video, Rahmeh actually explains what really happened is that she was in tears because of something that had just happened in Gaza that had deeply traumatized her. She'd entered the work staff room and she had spoken to Miriam Green about it, who had turned tail and said, basically shrugged her shoulders and walked out. And as a result of that, she led this case against Rahmeh. So she then goes on to explain what happened once she'd been doxed by Dr. Miriam Green, who was her junior on the medical staff. Her private information was shared. A friend and fellow doctor was doxed the same night. Their private information was shared. I received rape and death threats. We both had to call the police. The police came to her home. They sent me panic alarms and followed up with me for weeks. They transferred me to a hate crime support group. And it goes on from there. So she basically says in this, what is happening in Britain? She alerts us all to what is going on.
They have done the same to me. Difference here is they're targeting a British citizen on British soil, all while rallying for a foreign state. By leveraging their ties to the media and the government, many UK LFI lawyers are lords. They're acting as foreign agents, breaching UK democracy, security and interest. The GMC reiterated that my posts are within the limits of political speech, which attracts the highest level of protection under Article 10. The political debate is basically their opinion versus mine. Theirs being in support of the state committing genocide, and mine, which opposes genocide, leading to 9 months of regulatory action. This is what creates an issue in modern-day Britain.
I think she's absolutely right there, and we can continue to discuss that in extra. But she went on to say that another doctor was revealed to have been responsible for the report against her, which is Dr. Justin Stebbing, previously suspended for mistreating cancer patients and for inappropriate conduct with a female patient. Stebbing is a British Jewish oncologist and cancer expert, cancer and COVID-19 treatment researcher. Again, the COVID-19 connection at Imperial College London with a Harley Street private practice. She goes on to point out that the medical practitioner board, the chair of the board, Miss Margaret Obi, called for his erasure from the medical register, stating that he showed persistent dishonesty and no remorse. Sharon Beattie, QC for the GMC, agreed and expressed concerns about an ongoing risk to patient safety due to his persistent dishonesty, which he had attempted to cover up. Yet he avoided being struck off. Why? And as one person responded on the post from Rahmeh, Leila Hamad, who's a Spanish-Moroccan journalist, she said basically because he is protected by government, shielded by lobbies, excused by media, and weaponizing anti-Semitism to silence critics. This is why they are immune everywhere. Again, I agree with this. And then basically what she then went on to explain is regarding Miriam Green, who doxed her and another colleague basically last year. Sorry, I'm getting mixed up with the dates. This is what she has now said about Miriam Green. So part of my now second GMC investigation, so she's now facing a second investigation, and first referral to a tribunal hearing, which could potentially suspend me and revoke my license, is that I doxed Miriam Green, the same Miriam who made sure that in less than 1 month of working with me, I was fired. This is Jewish supremacy, which is Zionism. This is Jewish privilege. This is the double standard. This is Britain. We are occupied. Very strong words, but I second them entirely. And then let's have a look at another organization quickly that is going after Rahmeh. So this is the Campaign Against Semitism organization in the UK. I was speaking to David Miller about this morning because they've also now joined in on the attack against David Miller for the second appeal case. They're trying to take a private case against David Miller to add to his burden of Zionist movement persecution, basically. Now, the odd thing is, Mike and I were talking about this morning. On the website, the only two representatives that you see are Gideon Falter on the left and Stephen Silverman on the right. There are no other employees listed on the Charities Commission. Also, there are no trustees, no directors listed. And David told me through his research that he's discovered that they've been given special dispensation to not expose their directors on the Charities Commission website. Extraordinary. So David, back in, I think this was 2024, he wrote an article about Gideon Falter campaign against anti-Semitism, instruments of the Zionist entity. So the CAA is a covert instrument of the foreign policy objectives of the illegitimate and genocidal Zionist regime, working in the UK, of course, and it should be shut down. They're receiving massive funding from basically organizations within the Zionist movement in the UK. And all this while, of course, the Palestine Action Group is being prescribed as a terrorist organization. And we still have now 24 Palestine Action young people in jail facing trial, but they're in jail and undergoing sort of Abu Ghraib style detention, an anti-genocide protester in British jail. And if we look at what she actually says in the article, in August 2024, heavily armed police arrested me and one other person. She says basically they came in the first time with guns, flying a drone above our heads while we were completely unarmed and in our pajamas. She was let go and arrested again 4 months later. Police surrounded me in my bed while I was sleeping and naked, breaking down my front door and destroying my bathroom. In another brutal example, 30 police officers entered a family home to arrest one person. We were all detained in specialist counterterrorism units around the country, although the terrorism charge has been dropped. Oh, sorry, can I just go back to that for a second? They're interrogated multiple times a day and experience sleep deprivation with lights kept on 24 hours a day with no windows. They initially had no contact with loved ones and were kept in isolation for up to a week before being remanded in prison. I mean, me personally, I just find this absolutely horrifying. The contrast between how real criminals who happen to be protected by the Zionist movement are being let off scot-free, while those that are protesting genocide, defending the Palestinians, are held in conditions that can be compared to Abu Ghraib. And finally, I just want to end with what is an emotional part of her statement from Dr. Rahmeh Aladwan, and ask you all to support her as much as you can on her social media and wherever you can, basically.
I have persevered, but I am also a human. It has not been easy. And every time I cry, I remember one martyred child or a mother of a martyr, and it fills me with determination and resistance. So please don't let them scare you into silence because of me, because they haven't managed to scare me into it. Please let this empower you. If you're speaking out, continue. If you haven't, you decide what choice of yours history will remember. Whether it's silence in the face of the most documented genocide in history, or your clear stance for humanity.
Thoughts?
Well, I think it's appalling, Mike, and we at the UK column have been warning for many years that we have a foreign power which is taking more and more control within UK. We talked about David Cameron saying that his belief in Israel was unshakable. And of course, if you say that and believe it, that means that UK comes second. So we pointed that out. We had Francis Maude announcing effectively a partnership of all the security and intelligence services and the universities with Israel. And all of this was done with absolutely no discussion with the public. So there's no accountability. And it's clear that this partnership, in inverted commas, has just got more and more complex and buried itself deeper and deeper into British society. And there's a lot of questions to be asked. And the I think the good thing which is starting to happen is more and more Jewish people are expressing concerns about what's happening here because they realize how dangerous this is to them. And as you say, Vanessa, we can talk about this more in UK column extra at the end of the news.
Sandi, let me welcome you to the programme, and you're going to tell us a little bit about impact investing.
Thank you very much, Mike. I don't know if many people understand what impact investing is, but it is really the currency of data mining and data gathering of data and selling that on to third parties through things like outcomes, futures markets, whatever. But it's a new currency that is being traded on us humans, basically. So the man that's sometimes called the father of impact investment is Sir Ronald Cohen, and he is a businessman, both UK and US, notorious for bankrolling the new Labour governments of Tony Blair and Gordon Brown, being dubbed Brown's bankers. So Cohen reveals in his book Impact. He's also really in with the Rothschild Foundation, and they're all in this together. The Edmund de Rothschild Foundation is all part of that. Now, Cohen reveals in his book Impact, reshaping capitalism to drive real change, and it was in that book that he reveals that in 2007, a meeting was hosted by the Rockefeller Foundation at their Bellagio Center in Italy. And impact investing was coined as a term to replace social investment. The Rockefellers' private estate in Bellagio, we mustn't forget, is the same place that gave birth to the Club of Rome in 1968, which was again behind the Earth Summit and everything that comes with the SDGs. Brown himself is now a trustee of the Rockefeller Foundation. And let's not forget that in 1999, he sold 395 tons of UK gold reserves for a song. And that's not to be forgotten. Now, Tony Blair is his partner in crime, obviously. And he, shortly after resigning from British politics in January 2008, Blair joined Rothschild Associated Business JP Morgan Chase in a senior advisory capacity, earning $2.52 million a year. So he was on the Business Council of the World Economic Forum, was a board member of the United States China Business Council, and in 1997 received the American Jewish Committee's National Human Relations Award. Now, Cohen is also involved in the World Economic Forum, the West's Global Shapers Project, led by Schwab, and his colleague David M. Rubenstein of the Carlyle Group. They're all heavily into impact investing, as is obviously Tony Blair's Institute for Global Change, which is his main vector for pushing this. It's like a financial investment company. Now, the godfathers of the Great Reset, the Rothschilds, are openly involved in impact investment, both through the asset management division of Rothschild & Co., with its social impact investment fund. And in Israel, impact investing has enjoyed rapid growth in recent years, doubling from an estimated 130 million in 2016 to 260 million in 2018. Aiming to build the Israeli impact investment ecosystem, the Edmund de Rothschild Foundation, in partnership with the Jewish Funders Network, and I think we've got a slide on that, launched last year the Matching Grant, a $1 million matching grant initiative. The Israeli Edmund de Rothschild Foundation's Impact Entrepreneurship Program officer, Alina Shaloninkov, said the promotion of the impact industry has to happen through philanthropy. I think we've got a picture, a slide there of the Global Shapers. That's also all part of this impact investment push to get it, even more kind of accepted and. Well, it's already accepted, but, more impactful. The impact investment is totally reliant on we've got on the Sustainable Development Goals, whose acceleration has been officially pushed by the WEF, which is a kind of Zionist proxy, really, since 2019. The real power lies not in the goals themselves, but in the technical indicators and algorithms that measure progress towards these goals. Now, a lot of it is done through philanthropy, and we've got these NGOs, creating change through family philanthropy, and I'll be going into that a little bit later with the Guerrilla Foundation, which I'll be covering after this. So this, the 17 goals are really the driver for impact investing. They act as a covert legislation. These laws, this legislation didn't really go through any democratic process. We're witnessing the most sophisticated control system in human history, and it's debt slavery. I mean, no matter how you look at it, it's far worse than capitalism. The SDG Values Act as a hidden control panel of global governance. Whoever sets these parameters and algorithms effectively programs the automated responses that shape billions of lives. Now, looking at the 17 goals, 16, peace, justice, strong institutions, and goal 17, partnerships for the goals, reflect the purpose of impact investing. So let's have a look at those two, because actually what they say is, now goal 16 is the official description of goal 16 is promote peaceful and inclusive societies, provide access to justice for all, and build effective, accountable and inclusive institutions at all levels. The real meaning, though, is promote peace through supranational policing, erode local legal systems in favour of international law, and redefine justice to mean ideological conformity. And goal 17 is really gets it. I mean, all of these goals kind of interlink with each other, so I'll be covering some other ones in the next few weeks. Goal 17 is the partnership for the goals, which is the final one. And the official description is strengthen the means of implementation and revitalise the goal partnerships for sustainable development. But the real meaning is cement the public-private partnership model where unelected corporations, banks and NGOs dictate policy globally, bypassing democratic accountability under the banner of cooperation and safeguarding. So that's a quick sort of resume of how these goals link up really with impact investing and what it really means to us as human beings, because it is a whole slavery system built on these financial instruments. Back
Sandi,
to you. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And as you say, later on, we'll be looking at the Guerrilla Foundation as just one example of impact investing in action. But Brian, let's move on then and have a look at Nick Clegg. Has he been speaking out again recently?
Well, unfortunately, he has. And I've got to say, Sandi, lovely segue, talking about public-private partnerships. We're not too sure what is political, what is big business, and up pops Nick Clegg. And of course, he gets massive coverage in the BBC article. Let's pull this apart. This is the headline. Clegg accuses Vance of hypocrisy over free speech criticism. So when we see Clegg here, what are we dealing with? Because yes, he was a politician, deputy prime minister, but then he disappears off to work in America. Why has he been given all this street cred by the BBC? Let's have a listen to what he actually says. And it's quite amazing. I cannot stand the rank hypocrisy of senior right-wing American politicians flying first class or by private jet over the United Kingdom and declaring that somehow there's excessive censorship in the UK and then flying back to the US to basically intimidate and bully and cow their own opponents. So pretty strong language. You would think that he's on a squeaky clean slate here, but not quite. He goes on to say that the behaviour of many in the Trump administration is flagrantly contrary to American principles of free expression. So this is the Brit. He's worked in America for a few years, and he's now going to stick his oar into the pond in order to tell the Americans how to conduct their business. The Clegg arrogance is clearly still there. He went on to say that the UK is over censorious online, and he cited the police making 30 arrests a day for offensive posts. But it goes on still. Part of the definition of living in a free society is that you can say things that are offensive and other people which other people violently disagree with. He says that over-censoring offensive but legal speech actually empowers figures like Nigel Farage, who will get more of a hearing the more imprecise the boundaries are. So he's deep into politics. He's come back in from nowhere. Then he sticks the knife in with this one, which I'm sure you'll enjoy, Mike. Age verification rules in the Online Safety Act aimed at preventing young people from encountering harmful content do not go far enough. So this man absolutely jumping in to ensure that this pernicious act is going to be used for even further clampdown on free speech. Let's look at a little video clip now of Clegg in action from 2014. Let's see how this man performed.
Go get him. Go on, Cleggy.
Wait, let's gather for what we've got here.
Yeah,
Go around the other side, son. Let's get the dog in the photo. There's a dog already in the photo.
Keep the smiles up. Thumbs up. Nick, 4 years ago, I asked you, what were you going to do about institutional paedophiles operating in this country now? Your reply to me, Nick, was, I don't know what you mean by institutional paedophile rings. Do you understand what I was talking about 4 years ago now, Nick? And stay in my eyes.
Talking about taxes, thanks very much.
Oh, thank you. Gotcha. What about Leon Britton? When are we going to get him out?
Yeah, son.
Yeah. Mr. Alexander, you've just been involved in a budget based on a lie. Why isn't the Treasury reproducing currency at zero interest? Why aren't you prepared to do that? Are you not going to answer to me? It's very simple. Last week, the Bank of England acknowledged that we can print our own currency, and so that means austerity is based on an absolute lie, and you have bought into that lie, and people are dying exponentially as an absolute consequence of your measures, and you will answer.
Traitors.
Remember.
Hi, Matthew. I'm not actually with the Deputy Prime Minister because he's had to abort our interview because we were here for a little photo op which the Lib Dems have organised to flag up their, what they say is their key tax measure, which is raising the lower threshold. However, so Mr Clegg was there and all his Lib Dem people were there, but the whole thing had to be aborted because well, a few protesters came along and spoiled the occasion. So Mr Clegg has gone over there. I don't know whether he'll be coming back in the near future, but that was one photo op which seemed to hit the buffers, shall we say.
Yeah, those nasty protesters, they got in the way of stuff and he had to run away. I mean, he just had to run away.
He did have to run away because actually he knew that what Bill Maloney was saying to him was absolutely true. So Nick Clegg didn't want to protect the children. He didn't want to talk about it. Free speech wasn't his thing. And of course, eventually he disappears off to America. Let's finish his words from the BBC that doesn't want to protect children. So Clegg said that seeing tech bosses like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Mr. Zuckerberg line up behind Donald Trump at his inauguration in January was one of the reasons where I thought probably it's time to move on from Silicon Valley. And then this is the real masterpiece. There's only one thing worse than having politicians and business people at each other's throats. It's having them in each other's pockets. But that is exactly what he did by jumping out of a senior political role in order to go to America straight into not only big business, but big business which was censoring people's right to free speech. Sorry, Mike. And now the BBC brings this man back and puts him in front of the public as if we should pay attention to a word he says. This is obscene.
I'll tell you what's even more obscene than that. It's the irony in the fact that he refused to answer any questions about institutional child abuse, and yet protecting children is the justification for this entire censorious regime that we have at the moment. These people are disgusting.
They are disgusting. And of course, the BBC is even more disgusting because they've chosen this man to put in front of the British public so that the public should pay attention to what he thinks and says. We should not pay attention to anything Nick Clegg says. He should be put on a flight back to America for Trump to deal with. But on the subject of child protection and the safety of children, let's get on to a more positive note. And actually, the theme is ultimately America. But I was delighted to be told a month or so ago that there was going to be an event at the end of this September in Washington where a number of people were coming together to protect the future of children. And this is an international coalition for children. A lot of extremely outspoken and very good people. And I haven't got the exact date, 29th, 30th of September, but we are going to be reporting on this event because Kim Isherwood, that the UK column has interviewed several times from Public Child Protection Wales, she will be attending. But let's get our minds in the right frame as to what the problem is, who is trying to sexualize children worldwide. This is a really excellent film clip which Coalition for Children has on their website together with a lot of other material. Let's have a look at this quick clip.
In this film, the term Comprehensive Sexuality Education, or CSE, does not refer to sex education programs in general, but rather to a specific form of graphic sexuality education. CSE is designed to change the sexual and gender norms of society, promotes high-risk sexual behaviors, and encourages even the youngest of children to experiment sexually.
This is definitely an attack on healthy family life. It will affect your economy. It will affect your child rearing. It will affect your education system.
This has horrified a lot of people in South Africa. And the tool that is being used, the weapons that are being used, is comprehensive sexuality education.
As president of the American College of Pediatricians, I am deeply concerned about comprehensive sexuality education for 4 reasons. First, it sexualizes children. Second, it threatens children's health. Third, it promotes a dangerous gender ideology. And fourth, it undermines the parent-child relationship, which violates parental rights.
My life's work has been to protect children by exposing the roots of the sexual revolution, the sexual rights movement that's led to sex education worldwide, globally.
Say not to CSC! Say not to CSC! Say not to CSC!
There is a worldwide war raging across the globe. Not a war of guns and weapons, but a war of ideas, ideologies, and worldviews regarding sex.
This is just part of the lesson plan for what's called Making a Difference curriculum, and it is in Oregon schools and probably schools around the nation. This is instructions for the teacher in the classroom to ask her or his students, how do people express their sexual feelings? What is abstinence? And here are some answers that they try to elicit from the children. Oral sex, masturbation, anal sex, massage, holding hands, touching each other's genitals, saying, I like you. And what they're doing is equating all these things. Saying, I like you is equal to anal sex.
We have had several high-level visits to Jamaica and the Caribbean from Prime Minister David Cameron of the UK, from the Secretary General of the UN, Ban Ki-moon, and from President Barack Obama. This is about pressuring the Caribbean to accept the sexual rights campaign.
So there it is, easy to see what's going on, and note the people peddling this filth, attacking children. So if we've got any worries about what's happening in UK, we shouldn't have any worries. Because we can see clearly where this is coming from. Now, just to stay on the positive, Public Child Protection Wales, one of a number of organisations that will be attending this event at the end of September. And the important thing is these organisations are worldwide organisations coming together to challenge what's going on. I'll just end by a couple of quotes from Kim Isherwood herself, Chairman of Public Child Protection Wales. She says that she's delighted with the move and she feels privileged to work alongside some of the biggest names known to be opposed to the Kinsey deceit, that's the Kinsey report, and the betrayal of childhood. And she ends by saying this unified front is crucial for the future of our children, ensuring a collective voice against influences that seek to undermine their natural growth and purity. And I'll remind our audience that if you have a look for Kim Isherwood on the UK Column website, you'll see that we've done a number of interviews with this amazing and very gutsy woman. So, Mike, some positive things there. Clear that a big pushback on this filth against children is happening, and it's a worldwide movement. So a lot more support needed, but it's happening.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Thank you to anybody as well who is supporting the UK Column. We do need your continuing support. So if you can support us, please consider joining us or making a donation. There's a big blue button on the front page of the website, which will take you to information on that. Another reminder of the UK Column on Location event featuring Dr. Andrew Wakefield and, of course, access to Protocol 7, his film. Also Tess Laurie and a number of other speakers. We'll be mentioning more of those on Friday's programme. Did you want to say anything?
Well, I've got to say, Mike, that we're just over 50 tickets left. So if you want to come to this event and you've been hanging on, do I or don't I, you need to get onto the UK Column shop and buy a ticket, because it's clear that we are going to sell this event out well before the date of the actual conference. This is absolutely amazing. Thank you to all of our supporters worldwide for the confidence of coming in and getting on board this event. If you can't make it, of course, you can still pay for the live stream. So we will be talking to you wherever you are in the world, but if you can be there with us, it will be fantastic.
Okay, tonight at 7 p.m, Germ Warfare is Why is Gender Inversion Everywhere with Mr. E. And tomorrow at 1 p.m, Charles is speaking to Jake Fern about a picture paint. It's effectively about the 1,000-word podcast and news about that. So do join us at 1 p.m. for that. Now, Brian, let's move on. And what's the Daily Mail been up to?
Well, the Daily Mail has produced an article which, in my mind, is absolutely designed to ramp up the angst and the unhappiness that's in people's minds at the moment, particularly as we see the police arresting people for making comments on social media. So here's the incredible headline page of the Daily Mail. Another day in Starmer's socialist utopia. Then it's talking about the bond markets, but then it quickly gets on to police arrest of the Father Ted writer, Graham Linehan. And it then asks, when did Britain become North Korea? Now, the amazing thing about this article is that Martin Beckford, the Daily Mail policy editor, apparently has no idea where all the mad policies have come from, and yet the UK Column has been tracking all of this over years. So this is a little video of the article. It's the only way I can get the actual scale of it. But as you're scrolling through all these people who've been effectively attacked by the police and imprisoned or questioned or arrested as a result of social posts, this is all presented to the public in a very glossy, childish way, in my opinion, designed to ramp up the angst that the public already fear. And to the right of the page, as it scrolled down, of course, is a column of utter dross articles by the Daily Mail. So in my opinion, this article has been put together in order to ramp up the stress and anxiety in people when they see the police arresting people for making some casual social media comments that 20 years ago nobody would have batted an eyelid. So this is priming the population for something to happen. And if I can just quote Graham Linehan himself, because he was interviewed shortly before we went live with the news. And he was talking about London, and he said, basically, I don't recognise this place. It's different from the friendly place I used to remember. And he said the cultural life is disappearing. It's been taken apart. And he said the tensions that he feels, that he knows that other people feel, are growing. And he then says something is going to blow, and that is going to happen next year. Now, I'm not sure why he says next year, Mike, but what I do think is significant is he is also realising that public emotions are being played, and the Daily Mail has not got a leg to stand on because we told them years ago, but I'll come on to that in a minute.
Yep, keep going.
Sorry, well, just to show these two bits, essentially there were comments. So this was J.K. Rowling that the paper printed. She used some bad language, but basically said, what the F has the UK become? This is totalitarianism, utterly deplorable. And this is the really sad stuff. We got Neil O'Brien, Piers Morgan and Robert Jenrick commenting. But essentially this is all, it's sort of making a joke. They're puzzled. It's laughter. It's ridicule. No, what we are looking at is calculated, vicious policy to destroy the UK. And the next objective is breakdown, which is why these articles are phrased in such a frivolous way. It's playing with the emotions of the population.
Yeah, so if you haven't seen Graham Linen's Substack, this is it. I just got arrested again. And he says something odd happened before I'd even boarded the flight in Arizona. When I handed over my passport at the gate, the official told me I didn't have a seat and had to be reticketed. At the time, I thought it was just the sort of innocent snafu that makes air travel such a joy. But on hindsight, it was clear that I'd been flagged. Someone somewhere, probably wearing unconvincing makeup and his sister, wife, mum's underwear, had made a phone call. The moment I stepped off the plane at Heathrow, 5 armed police officers were waiting. Not 1, not 2, 5. They escorted me to a private area and told me I was under arrest for 3 tweets. In a country where paedophiles escape sentencing, where knife crime is out of control, where women are assaulted and harassed every time they gather to speak, the state had mobilized 5 armed officers to arrest a comedy writer for this tweet. And no, I promise you, I'm not making this up, is what he said. So this was the first of the 3 tweets. The other 2 tweets, by the way, were not quite as sort of graphic as this, but he said here, if a trans-identified male is in a female-only space, he's committing a violent, abusive act, make a scene, call the cops, and if all else fails, punch him in the balls. So that's what he said, and for that, the 5 officers with guns picked him up when he got off the plane. Now, for their part, the Met Police claim that this that it's normal that police in airports are armed. They didn't seem to say very much about the fact that the need for 5 of them to be there. But anyway, Linehan got the usual treatment. Belt, bag, and other devices were confiscated. Linehan and electronic devices were confiscated. He was seen by a nurse while at the police station, and then he was taken to hospital because of high blood pressure. He was then released on bail with a single condition. So that single condition is he's not allowed to use Twitter or X, as it likes to be called these days. So that's the only bail condition. Now, he went on then to say, I'll just bring this on screen. He went on to say the civility of individual officers doesn't alter the fundamental reality of what happened. I was arrested in an airport like a terrorist, locked in a cell like a criminal, taken to hospital because stress nearly killed me, and banned from speaking online, all because I made jokes and upset some psychotic cross-dressers. Now, Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, has waded in with the BBC this morning on this and basically said well, what did he say? Ministers need to look at laws concerning online speech. He was concerned that there was a bit of overreach or something, more expectation on the police, and because of that, they're under pressure and maybe doing the wrong things. And he was also talking diluted the focus and priorities of the public. That's obviously something we need to look at. And he said it's very easy for people to criticize police who are only enforcing the laws that are being passed to them by MPs. Well, part of the problem here perhaps is that those laws are so vaguely defined that the police are basically left to make things up as they go along, and they're clearly making the wrong decisions. If that's what they're doing, perhaps it's much more likely that they're making the right decisions, or at least the decisions that they're being told to make in the first place, because there's clearly a lot going on behind the scenes here, Brian.
I think that is the way round, Mike. The loose definitions are to allow abuse of powers. In my opinion, that's what it is. But let's come back to the Daily Mail, and we'll pop this image up on screen. Where are we? Here we are. Now, this it's got a little bit of reflection on this letter. It's a letter dated the 14th of February 2012. It's to me as part of the UK column team, and it's from Paul Dacre, who was then the editor-in-chief of the Daily Mail. And he says, "Thank you so much for sending me a copy of your paper containing the article on the Media Standards Trust. I read the article with great interest." Now, this is a thank you letter from Paul Dacre because we explained to him why he was being attacked by the Media Standards Trust. We also gave him a lot of information about the pernicious political work of the charity Common Purpose. And as a result of that, about 2 months later, the Daily Mail on a Saturday morning printed 9.5 full pages of information around Common Purpose. And that was what, like 90% of our research in the background. Now, the point we're making is that we told the Daily Mail in 2012 exactly what was happening under the surface. The country was being taken apart from the inside, and perhaps on top of that, very importantly, the woke agenda, diversity, and all the rest of it was being used as the weapon to destroy and cause friction in the UK public. But despite giving it to the Mail, they did the one big splash on the Saturday, and then, of course, none of their investigation team continued to dig in order to find the policy, which their own policy editor in this latest article just doesn't seem to understand what's happening. I'm going to use the word pathetic, Mike. I find this utterly pathetic, and I wonder whether it's because the policy editor has brought in Sun standards, the Sun newspaper standards, to the Daily Mail, that we're seeing this crass situation with the reporting.
We'll talk more about that in extra as well.
Certainly will.
Sandi, let's welcome you back and tell us about the Guerrilla Foundation.
Well, I stumbled across this when I was looking into impact investing, and it's an interesting website, the Guerrilla Foundation, because they're talking about a new form of philanthropy. It's Generation X. A lot of the people who are involved in this website have never worked. They're immensely rich. A lot of their funders are, and I'll go into some of the. A lot of them are literally rich kind of. I think they've inherited a lot of money from their grandparents, their parents, and so on. And they're pushing away the whole idea of old philanthropy. So I just thought that the mission statement that they had, the language they use, is hilarious. Well, it's woke, but it says the dinosaurs that cling to power: Whitosaurus, Plutosaurus, Machosaurus, and Stratosaurus. Time for meteoric extinction and cultivation of new forms of democratized giving. Let's not confuse plutocracy with philanthropy, and philanthropy with real love of mankind. The world, life, and consciousness itself is unfathomably queer. steeped in paradox and uncertainty, and there are too many things to name: ideas, quests, journeys, and pursuits. Perhaps these words give you a taste of who we are and where our hearts beat. Let no amount of words substitute a real relationship. So let's meet. These are simply some of our emergent visions, ever unfolding and interacting with the dreams of the little earthlings who have not yet been taught what to dream. So I'm assuming we are the little earthlings that they are saving in their, in their philanthropic quest. So anyway, basically, I mean, I will just read you what the guy in charge of this is Antonis Schwartz. He's an activist, philanthropist, and impact investor of Greek-German descent and driven by the ideas laid out in the Guerrilla Foundation's mission. He has used his inherited wealth that originated from the selling of pharmaceutical company Schwartz Pharma to support a variety of social causes since 2011. In 2013, Antonis co-founded Vuliwatch, a Greek parliamentary monitoring organization that claims to increase political accountability. He also co-funded the Centre for Sustainable Finance at the University of Zurich, and in his free time he enjoys skateboarding and playing Magic in the Gathering. I don't know what that is. For you can find out more about his work on the website Good Move Initiatives. Well, interestingly, I looked at it, and that he also is involved in something called resource generation. And again, it organises young people 18 to 25 who, with access to wealth and class privilege in the US, to become transformative leaders working towards the equitable distribution of wealth, land, and power. And it's interesting because there's another one that's called Sign the Redistribution Pledge, Wealth Inequity Stops with Our Generation. So these are idealistic people who've never worked in their lives, and they have become quite woke in their thinking, and how they really seem to believe that this is really happening. The Guerrilla Foundation presents itself as a departure from traditional philanthropy. It claims to reject the charitable industrial complex with the paternalistic model of billionaire giving. Quoting Peter Buffett's sharp critique that as more lives and communities are destroyed by the system it creates, vast amounts of wealth for the few, the more heroic it sounds to give back. But this just keeps the existing structure of inequality in place. And I tend to agree with that. On the surface, the foundation's approach appears radical. Donors are told to give us money while giving up power, while decisions about grants are handed to the activist council, made up of grassroots actors. The foundation champions a vision of great transition, much like the Great Reset, a move away from traditional capitalism towards a so-called solidarity economy, ecological balance, and participatory governance. Yet beneath this language lies the uncomfortable paradox. The foundation is largely bankrolled by a new generation of Europe's wealthy elite, Generation X, and millennial heirs to fortunes amassed by their parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents. These individuals who, by their own admission, have never worked in the traditional sense, yet now position themselves as the vanguard of reinvented communitarian capitalism. So this is, obviously this model is branded as impact investing or stakeholder capitalism, but it's sold as a moral alternative to the market economy. It accelerates digitalization and circular economy frameworks that consolidates data and resources in the hands of the very same 1% who dominate global finance. So is the Guerrilla Foundation aware of these contradictions? It calls for transparency about the origin of wealth and openly critiques philanthropy as conscience laundering. But here lies the central problem. It's all wrapped up in the language of guerrilla activism or sustainability, and it continues to insulate the wealthy from deeper accountability. It's just, wealth is not being dismantled, it's being rethemed. The system is not overturned, but it's being rebranded. It dreams of a world in which philanthropy itself becomes obsolete. So, it's really a kind of a camouflage of this elite system that we have anyway. Now, I just flagged up a few of the people who actually are helping Guerrilla Foundation. And of course, you've got Millionaires for Humanity. And I've got another slide. There's the Edge Funders Alliance, Impact Investing, all of these. There's LEAP. Do look these up. I don't think we've got too much time to go into it in general. But then you've got the Millionaires for Humanity, who also are saying, we want a rebranding of this philanthropy. So I just want to tie this in with the goals again. And they talk a lot about climate action in this. So the real meaning, goal 13 is climate action. Take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. The real meaning is use the climate crisis narrative to justify extreme restrictions on energy, travel, diet, and personalized freedom, while diverting trillions to climate finance schemes benefiting corporations, impact investors, banks, and billionaires who created the problem. And that's the way it is.
Absolutely. Okay.
Well, I'm just going to say, Sandi, thank you very much for that. It's amazing research from yourself and Ben now focusing in on this idea of a revision of philanthropy in order that these immensely wealthy people make even more money. But a lot to talk about this.
Yeah, but we are absolutely out of time for now. So we're going to finish there. I'm going to say we'll be back in a few minutes if you're a UK Column member for UK Column News Extra. If you're not a UK Column member, please consider joining us. As I said earlier, we do need your support, and you can then join us for Extra as well. But enjoy Germ tonight, the interview tomorrow, and we'll be back at 1 p.m. on Friday with more news. See you then. Bye-bye.